Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the channel after a little bit of a break that I had to take. But welcome back for the next installment in our new figure showcase series, where we take a look at a new figure, usually a new release that I'm adding into the collection, and I'm going to do a quick review and kind of posing session with it. For today's installment, I'm actually pretty excited because we're going to be taking a look at the 6-scale version of John Rambo by threezero from Rambo First Blood Part 2. Needless to say, this is actually one of my favorite movies and my favorite of the Rambo franchise. Rambo is just one of those iconic 80s action characters that I grew up watching. Now, this does mark the third iteration that we're getting from threezero of this character, with them previously having tackled Rambo from Part 3 and also Rambo from the original First Blood movie. Now, there was also a Green Jacket First Blood version done by the Stallone shop, and in the past Hot Toys had done a few versions of the character as well, but those were in the early days of the company, so they're highly outdated at this point in time. Now, I have previously reviewed the First Blood version and the Part 3 versions, and I love those figures. I was really impressed by the work threezero did on those, so I'm really hoping that this Part 2 version is going to continue that excellent work. And like I said, First Blood Part 2 is actually my personal favorite of the original trilogy. I don't feel like it has the gravitas of the original. Instead, it seemed to focus more on the traditional action movie tropes, but that wasn't a bad thing, to be honest. I thought it was a great follow-up that really differentiated itself from the original. So let's take a look at what threezero is giving us here. And if there's one thing that's become clear with this line, threezero does not go cheap with the accessories. Here you're getting a ton of weaponry, all accurate to the movie of course, as well as some additional clothing pieces like the shirt to recreate different looks from the movie itself. Now, we'll look at all these in further detail, but I really do appreciate the effort that went into these. Only thing lacking here, which is typical for threezero, is a display base. Just with some of the more dynamic poses, I do feel like not having a display base can be a little bit limiting. But let's jump into the accessories, and we're going to start as we usually do with the hands. And that's something we're getting here in abundance. So again, first slight nitpick, and I've had this with all the other figures in the line, the hands do feel slightly oversized, just a little bit. But that's overshadowed, honestly, by just the sheer quantity that you're getting here, with hands specifically designed to hold all the weaponry and all the accessories. Paint apps look good, and they definitely match the skin tone of the body. They're also a little shiny, which I think is their attempt to simulate some kind of sweat reaction from him being in that Vietnamese humid environment. But really great variety here. Next up, you get one of the iconic Rambo weapons, and that's his compound bow. Here, threezero is again providing some incredible looking pieces. The bow itself has great details, including the front piece designed to hold some arrows, and unlike the version from Part 3, this one has a slightly shinier finish, while still maintaining those details that we were accustomed to. Now, what would a bow be without some of the arrows? Now, these are pretty distinctive as well with the different tips. In the movie, we see him screwing the arrowheads on. We have the distinctive metal head, and then we have 3 explosive tip arrows, which are pretty, I think, iconic in the movie as well when it comes to him using them to great effect throughout the movie. And these are all really well done. And then, of course, you do get the pack that he uses to carry the arrows, and also that to hold the disassembled pieces of the bow. So it's very nicely done, again, with some great pocket and detail work. Just a solid setup here. And keeping with the distinctive weapons that Rambo has, what would Rambo be without his knife? Again, this is one of my favorite versions of the knife, with the silver metal edge and the dual serrated blade with a nice black carbon fiber body on the black handle. And then you do get another set of knives, including one that gets tucked into his boot, that has a similar look with the silver edge and the interior black, and you also get the 2 plunge knives that he uses, that he has in his back, that he uses in that scene where he's escaping from the pirates. And you also get a sharpening stone that gets tucked into the sheath for the big knife. Now, keeping with the weaponry, you also get an AK rifle, which we see him using during the course of the movie, particularly during the scene where he's trying to escape with the American POW and Murdoch orders the extraction team to abandon him. The rifle looks great with the nice wood portions and the highly weathered metallic details on the rifle's body as well, and it does have a removable magazine as well as a functioning safety in sight. So really great piece here. Next up, you get again that classic Rambo machine gun, the M60, that he uses during the village raid at the end of the movie, and he takes off the helicopter. This thing's pretty impressive. It's got a nice silver body that has some matte black shoulder guards, forward grips, and also includes the stand that connects back to the helicopter. And you do also get the ammo belt for the machine gun. So it's really well done, and in hand, I have to be honest, the scale is insane. Next up, you get a bazooka. So I'll start with the piece. It looks awesome and it's functional, where you remove the cover and actually expand the bazooka, and we'll see that with the figure itself later on. In addition, you do get that rocket that can be inserted into the bazooka itself. There's a ton of printed detail on the green body. Funny one to me is the caution indicating that you have to be aware of the rear blast area. While I love the movie, this is always something that gets flagged. So Rambo uses this at the end when he's having that climactic helicopter fight where he's going to shoot down Colonel Potovsky's hind helicopter. It's a great scene with a lot of tension, but when he fires the bazooka, right, he does it in the confines of Huey with a bunch of POWs in the rear compartment, so he would have killed them, right, with the blast. But it's a movie, so all that can be forgiven. But it's just funny that that's so prominently displayed, the blast, beware of blast zone. So final accessories you get here are more articles of clothing. First thing you get is a black shirt that he uses in the early parts of the movie after he's been dropped into Vietnam. Basic but still decently done. And then you get two very small pieces that are really, really impressive, which are the wristwatch that has a simulated fabric band. I'm really impressed by how good the detail is on this. And then you also get the Buddha necklace that he takes from Ko Bao after her death. Very nicely detailed again for something so small. Now let's jump into the figure itself. And as we normally do, we're going to start with the sculpt. So I'll tell you right now, it looks amazing. Just like the other two Rambo releases, I think the likeness to a young Stallone is 100% there. Paint apps are impressive, including the slight facial hair. Eyes also look incredibly realistic with whatever paint app they used, making it look almost glassy. And you can also see the nice fresh scar he has on his cheek that he gets after being captured. He also comes pre-equipped with the red headband. He uses that again, he takes from Ko Bao's dress after her death. Hair is sculpted as well and looks really decent and sloppy as it should for the movie. So overall, just impressed again with threezero's work here. I have to be honest, when looking at the sculpts between the Stallone shop and the threezero versions, for me, there's no doubt that threezero is the better option if you're looking for a Rambo figure. As far as the figure itself, it is nicely done. I'm guessing the body is very similar, if not identical to the one used with the previous figures, maybe with the only slight difference being the paint applications or the detailing on the rubber suit. Right? In particular, again, you have that bit of a shinier sheen, which to me, again, is meant to represent sweat, so it looks great. Now, out of the box, he comes with a tank top equipped, which is only one of a few looks he has in the movie. Pretty basic from a clothing point of view, although the tailoring is really decent, especially with the battle dress uniform, the pants, right? With the combat pants with all the pockets and just the detailing there. But surprisingly, the highlight for me on these has to be the boots. There's a ton of great detail on these, from the laces, which actually look pretty realistic, down to the weathering and the tread. A somewhat simple figure, but it's done well, and that's a credit to threezero on what they were able to do here. From a posability point of view, the arms have a decent articulation, even though they are covered in a rubber muscle sleeve, and they are double jointed, so you do get a lot of posability. For those of you who don't like visible joints, unfortunately the shoulders do have that evident joint. Personally, I don't mind it, but I do understand those of you who don't like that. But for me, I think it just helps with the posability, and I did manage to push this figure a little bit, and I was pretty impressed with what I got. Hand swapping is also actually pretty easy, and I felt like removing the hands and the pegs was pretty simple with no major effort having to be required, and I didn't really feel like at any point in time I was at risk of breaking or damaging anything. And even getting the figure to stand in a slightly post-styled works nicely. Legs aren't restrictive at all, so you can get some nice bends. The boots don't have a split cut, so you do have some limitations in terms of getting highly dynamic poses, but I will say that the joints feel nice and sturdy, and the piece does tend to hold pose as well. Beauty of the figure, though, for me, is just how many display options you have, from different looks throughout the movie with the shirt, with just a tank top, or even shirtless, representing kind of the latter portions of the movie. And with the weaponry, again, you have a nice range of options here, where you could display him with just a knife, with the bow, with the machine gun, the M60, the bazooka, and he does hold all the pieces really, really well, which I think is another credit to how poseable the figure is, that you can really, with a little patience, get some great poses. I think, again, the only issue I have with the Bazooka, I think it looks good, but there's a very specific scene in the movie where that's from, so unless I were to kind of try to do a Huey cockpit diorama, I don't know that I'd use it, because it's not really screen accurate to just have him standing with it, but it's a great option to have there again, right? So it goes without saying that threezero really has outdone themselves with this line. At times I've been critical of them as a company and some of their previous work, as sometimes I found that their sculpts can be hit or miss, but I'm really happy that they just knocked such an iconic character like Rambo out of the park, and really all three of their releases have been impressive, to say the least, and it just shows a great deal of respect for the license. So if you're looking to get a Rambo figure, I don't think you'll be disappointed with any of the three options. This being the second movie and my favorite, I'm extremely excited to have him, and I had a ton of fun posing him up, actually. Now, is this the end of the Rambo line from threezero? I don't know. Could they choose to tackle other versions? From this movie, they could do the parachute version, similar to what Hot Toys had done, or from First Blood, they could tackle the green jacket version as well. Also, there is Rambo 4. I thought that was actually a surprisingly good follow-up to the original trilogy, and I think it would cap off the Rambo series really well. Although the selling point for that one would have to be some kind of a 50 cal weapon for the final battle. So would threezero even decide to do that? I don't know if they would, but I would definitely pick it up. But I think at this point in time, it's a bit of an unknown what's next for this, if they're doing anything else. But I think at the very least, we got 3 amazing figures from this line from a classic action movie franchise. So look, that was my quick look at the 6-scale version of John Rambo from Rambo First Blood Part 2 by threezero. It goes without saying that I'm extremely impressed with what we're getting here. I'm very happy with the end result and happy to have a more modern version of this figure in hand. Now, let me know your thoughts on this one, and as always, thank you for spending a little time with me. And if you are enjoying the content, please consider dropping a like, comment, or subscribing, and we'll touch base on the next video.